Yo, yo, yo. Getting some people in the chat here. You guys know the routine. Got some breakfast here. What's going on, Chris? Tanner Denny. We're live at 11 a.m. for some Pro Tour. You guys know the routine. If you guys can hear the audio good, thumbs up in the chat. That would be great. Comment below. Got Brian in the house. What's going on, man? Yeah, Chris, we downloaded the PGA 21 on the computer. We're pro golfers. I got a new watch for Christmas, or a watch. Anyways, guys, looks like we got some good amount of people in here in the chat and the live stream. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We are doing my last video for 2021. It's been a crazy year. A lot of races going on. I think I've done my most amount of races in a year. So, yeah, as far as like reflecting on all of them and which ones that I've kind of thought were the best, we'll kind of talk about throughout this video. But obviously, there's been a lot of new things happening, new sponsors. So I'm going to do my press releases a little bit, maybe later throughout the week, just because there's going to be a ton of new stuff coming. So we're going to have to make you guys wait a little bit. There was a couple teasers out there on a couple of the J Concept videos if you guys really wanted to see. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the Top Gun Shootout at Sdrc. That was basically, I can't really remember exactly, but that was kind of like the last event I think I haven't talked about with you guys. But anyways, look at this. We have 110 people in the tube doing some. You guys must not be working today. Let me see these comments. We have Jim Silva in here, Chris, Stefan, Eric. What's going on, guys? Clay is in the house. Adam Peters, what's going on, brother man? Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. So when we got to Top Gun, we actually did it was called the J Concepts California Tour. We did basically, or I was out there in California for 2 weeks. We did a ton of like driving, a lot of nitro running. We did a bunch of running with Adam Drake and Rhonda Drake at we did a Toys for Tots event at Palm Springs or Palm Desert, whatever it's called. We did that. Had a pretty good time there. I ended up getting third overall or something. And then the following weekend, or that same weekend, we went over to the Dirt, which is where the Nitro Challenge is typically held. Raced out there, did a ton of practice and testing. Super stoked on how all that went. Did a lot of tire testing with the guys. We figured out a lot of new information than what we traditionally kind of thought. and learn something new every time you get out. Let me tell you. But we did a club race out there. I was able to get the overall win there. It was a kind of a crazy main. You guys can check out the video on the J Concept vlog on YouTube, which was pretty awesome. So ran my nitro car, ran some new tires, some new power, and I'm pretty stoked for 2022. But the carryover part was we stayed after the following week. I think I was out there for 14 days, or 16 days. Did the Sdrc Top Gun Shootout. We were able to meet up with our 10 skill crew. We had Dustin Evans out there, Aiden Horn, Austin Wick, Dominic was out there running. So it was a pretty stacked run. Mayfield was out there racing. I mean, it was honestly one of the better 10 skill events. Pretty laid back. Everyone was just kind of enjoying themselves. She got the owner, Sean, at SDRC, is an amazing guy that wants to put on a good event. The track was awesome. Matty G is kind of a local hero there. He obviously helped those guys build a great track. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And again, guys, if you guys have any questions regarding any vehicles, we're going to get to that throughout the video. So I got an hour with you guys. Kind of going through these. I'm also eating breakfast too. Yeah, so we ran, SDRC, I did some CSI on my two-wheel drive, and kind of went a little bit differently than what I traditionally have said in the past with some of the setup stuff. So let me just grab it. Been running the long arm option on the two-wheel drive. I've seemed like I've been bouncing back and forth. At Hobby Action, I've been running the short arm stuff, and then everywhere else I've been running the long arm. So for those Hobby Action locals that are running the new car, the 0.3, just exactly depending on the grip, in my opinion, Hobby Action, it's not when the tires are gripping the dirt, it almost like it grips and slides, and where other tracks like SDRC or Masters of Dirt, the car doesn't actually slide. It ends up like overloading the tire and it wants to flip. Where at Hobby Action, it's almost impossible to really like overload the tire because there's the pebbles and like the dirt dust that you get in. So in my opinion, the short arm stuff makes the most amount of traction, which is why on the tracks that I've been racing on this year, I've come to the realization that if you're running at these big events, such as the Top Gun Shootouts or the Masters of Dirt or the RC Clubhouse kind of tracks out there, and I've switched over to running the longer chassis, the +3 chassis that Associated offers. That has actually been a big eye-opener for me. I've played with it in the past, but 2 years ago when I've ran it, the tracks weren't nearly as high grip as they are today. Learning from the compounds, the different tire slots that we've been all running, it's completely different. So I can officially say that if you're running on those bigger events and it's super high traction, I have no question in the back of my mind that the longer chassis is the way to go. And just the stability and the consistency that it brings, it's so much easier to go faster than it is with the short chassis. The short chassis, it's almost feel like you have more traction. And don't get me wrong, this is only for the big race event styles. So if you're club racing and the grip is like good, but not extremely good, then I can totally see the short chassis being better. If you're just lacking a little bit of rear traction, then always would recommend running the short chassis. That would be for sure go to. Larry needs RIP logos. Yeah, so Chris, we'll talk about the 8-skill running. I just wanted to give a brief showdown of my 2-wheel. One of the biggest things I also did throughout the Top Gun event that made, I would say, my consistency go way up, and it completely, we call it like butt puckering if your car is like too hard to drive or whatever. But I ended up switching to a V2 gray rear spring. Traditionally, we run V1 whites. This is something that I haven't really experimented a bunch with. The guys in California, the local guys, kind of, or some of our engineers too, Billy Hayden and Kyle and Kerr Wanger, they switched over to the different spring version, and that actually made the car so much more forgiving to drive off the front. The front didn't feel so edgy and twitchy. If you're feeling like if it's a knife edge, traditionally that means that the rear end's not rolling with the front, and it's kind of like throwing weight towards the front of the car everywhere you go, and it's just diving over the front. And with the different spring option that we ran, I really loved the rear end to roll with the front and not be so rigid in the rear. That's kind of the biggest thing that's hard for us drivers to really determine what's happening. Because when I explain things to, for instance, like Kurt or Brent, whoever's there watching the cars, we're explaining and they're like, well, no, what's actually happening is this. And so that's kind of why we try to get video of what the car's actually doing. And sometimes a car is driving super stink bug and it's just diving over the front, has too much steering. So that's kind of like the rule of thumb of if your car has too much steering, traditionally could mean it's coming from the rear. If the car is kind of understeering, that means it needs to get onto the front more to load the front tires for the traction. So V2 blue or gray rear spring is good to go. I'd say extreme traction, V2 blue, and then V2 gray could be a standard at all times. But yeah, we're good to go there. I know people were asking about the tire band sidewalls that we at J Concepts released. This is something that I can honestly say, I don't know. Let me see if I have right here. So these are the J Concepts tire sidewall bands for the 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. I did run these at Sdrc. We've been playing with them for over a year now. I haven't ran them everywhere at the tracks this year, but I've ran them at Masters of Dirt. I ran them at Top Gun, and we ran them at the Nationals. For those who have not got a chance to pick these up to try, J Concepts just released them on their website, and the goal is to do a video on these for people that don't know how to mount them in the sidewall. But it's pretty self-explanatory because there's like the round shape of these that kind of basically goes and sinks into the sidewall, and it fits in pretty easily. So I have a couple of tricks that I want to show you guys. I want to do a YouTube video on it because I know it's going to be really popular, and I think it just clarifies a little bit better of what's actually going on and the goal that's all behind it. I don't think that you need to run these everywhere. I think this is for like the extreme conditions. We've also been doing a lot of running with the 8 scale stuff too. For those who are curious of how these things act in 8 scale, believe it or not, it's kind of eye-opening of what it's actually changing when you're driving. You think that it's just going to completely take away a lot of steering and not be very fast. It's actually something that we might have to consider doing it more often than not, because you don't think that the tire is doing what you think it's doing when you're turning the car or turning the wheel and the car is going through the bumps and stuff. The bands seem to really help out a ton with stability. Sometimes it even helps with getting more feedback to yourself of what the car is actually doing. It's kind of probably changed the game with all that. And I know, luckily, we've been doing a lot of running to know when we think we can run it, why we think we can run it. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, or who are just tuning in, we were just talking about the sidewall bands, stiffeners. Hopefully to do a video soon on it. It's been a crazy end of the year. We got a lot of new things coming for the new year, and I'm looking forward to starting the year off at Sdrc, and right after that we're doing the SIC Nitro event, and then back-to-back weekends is the 1/8 scale Aurora Nationals warm-up at Adobe Raceway here in Arizona, so that's going to be pretty fun. What's up, Danny Stockman? My man. Better have that trailer ready for me at SIC. Got to get that thing warmed up. Oh, for those who don't know, I ended up getting a race trailer. I ended up buying Red's trailer. For those who don't know him, he's big time 8-scale racer that goes to all of like the race time entertainment races. A good friend of ours and my dad's. Pretty stoked on how it's coming along. My dad's been helping me a ton with it. I definitely don't know what I would do if I didn't have him to help. Yeah, I also want to do a YouTube video on the trailer too. So I there's a lot of things that I want to do. I just need to execute them and show you guys what's going on. I'm trying to really take the 8-scale stuff to another level for me. I need to really. It's been difficult with here in Arizona with going to the tracks. It's 120 degrees, so I have a trailer now with no excuse, 2 AC units on it to keep me cool. And then, of course, in the wintertime when it gets too cold, I have a heater inside to go out to the track. Just the schedule's been really busy. I mean, we've been doing tons of events. I mean, we can legitimately do an event every weekend, which is something that I want to talk about with you guys. I know there's so many events out there. You probably don't know which events that you want to do or which events that you think you get the most bang for your buck. Of course, for those who do your local 8-scale running and you're trying to think about where you want to travel to, what events you think are the best. Number one event that I think you guys should do is the Silver State. It's so hard to beat the Silver State event. One, it's in Las Vegas. Bring the family out. Do a little bit of gambling if you guys are into that. Also, too, the track is in the casino, or it's at the casino hotel in the like horse arena side. So you can literally walk to your room from the track, go inside, eat some dinner, lunch, or breakfast, walk up to your room, shower, whatever you need to do, walk back down to the track, race your qualifier, and do whatever. Of course, it's inside, so there's no issues with rain delays or cancellations. That's the biggest thing. For those who are traveling out of state, there is really no reason for you to do that unless it's guaranteed running, which The only events that you can guaranteed running are the ones that are inside. I know when I travel over there to Florida or Georgia, it's like 50% chance it's like going to rain or not. So Silver State would be number one. It's a good family environment. Have some fun. Race the event. We had, I thought, record-breaking numbers last year. You guys can quote me 600 or 700 entries. The race time entertainment races. We're still talking about the 8 skill events. The race time entertainment races. Dave Likeham. He's the guy that puts on the events. Amazing guy. He wants to make sure everyone's having a good time. My personal favorite event that he does is the Psycho Nitro Blast. It's like the 24-hour practice. Of course, we don't really stay there 24 hours. You know, there's people that do. You can go for the practice. You can go get there, practice in the morning, leave around like 3 or 4 o'clock, go eat dinner, come back at 7 or 8, run again, and then go back to the hotel and get your sleep in, and come back to Friday morning or Saturday morning for qualifying. That's how that event goes. It's awesome. Always guaranteed running. It's covered. It's inside a horse arena. It's pretty hard to beat. The next Nitro events, Dave Likeham has the race time entertainment events. He has 5 of them. He has the Sacro Nitro Blast, the AMS, the Southern Nats, the SIC, and the Wicked Weekend. So I believe all of them are covered. I know AMS, Second Nitro, SIC, and Wicked Weekend is in the Southern Nats. So they're all covered. Those are the best Nitro events to attend. Of course, people want to travel to the DNC, the Dirt Nitro Challenge. Yeah, it's a pretty cool event. I think it's pretty great. But I also think that there's always a chance of rain for those who are trying to get guaranteed running. It's pretty difficult to pass up the ones that I mentioned. So, that really much does it for the 8 skill events. I'm going to be attending all those same events again for 2022. As far as the 10 skill side of the things go, the events that I think are the best around the country, it's pretty hard to beat, and I'm not biased by any stretches because it's plain obvious. The J Concepts INS and the NCTS events is honestly by far the best style events because it's the scheduling. You can get there on Friday, practice after work, or whenever you can take a day off. Saturday racing, Sunday mains, and go home Sunday night, and it's pretty awesome. So other events you have to travel on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's just for those that are doing this and still keeping a normal job. Those events are the best by a mile. So the J Concept INS is hands down the best events. I'm going to be going to the Hobby Action one, which is the finals, Sdrc. I might do the Adrenaline event. I'm not 100% sure because it's like the week before Silver State. So I'm not really sure what the best scenarios that is because there's a fine balance that we try to keep with all that. So and then the carpet events I'm going to be going to. I believe I'm going to be going to the 702 event. I want to do the Minnesota event, which it's traditionally on the same weekend as the Masters of Dirt. Masters of Dirt event is honestly coming one of the biggest growing events the last several years. We had like 430 entries. This is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is pretty awesome. The track's great. The Brent does a great job putting on a good event, and Scotty Ernst is typically he was the announcer for this year's event, which is pretty awesome. And then I would say lastly, there's 2 events that I would say I'm always been really happy with. One being the team associated event at Trackside Hobbies. Can't really thank the whole family crew that runs that place. Jamie does an amazing job with putting on a good event. You can see the passion that they put behind it. Scotty's always announcing at that particular event, so it's always nice to have the professionalism that he brings to the table for the event. And then for this year, I attended my first Florida Carpet Champs in Florida at Beachline. That given the overseas people that came out, the Europeans, I would say is amazing. I mean, traditionally we don't really get the race with those guys that often, so to have the chance to run with those guys and race against them and see where we kind of stack up. I was able to get third at that particular event, so not too terrible. I don't really race much carpet. I love the carpet racing, but with doing 8 scale nitro, 10 scale dirt, it's tough to throw in the carpet stuff. But I do plan on doing some more carpet events for this year for 2022, given that we have added another Roar Nationals to our schedule. We have a 10 scale dirt nationals, and then for whatever reason we have a 10 scale carpet nationals. So there's definitely some love hate talk about it. I mean, I'm a racer. I just want to race. I want to have some fun, do the best I can with what I got. But at the same time, I'm also realistic with the schedule. It's going to be really difficult to do all the things that we want to do. I know personally I want to be able to do some more videos for you guys. So that's my New Year's resolution, is to kind of be more helpful to the public and have some fun and race best we possibly can, and get some new faces into the hobby. So, all right, guys, let's get some questions in here. You're giving me you're making this too difficult for me. I'm still gonna eat my bacon. Andrew, hopefully the weather in Columbus isn't 15 degrees. I'm gonna have to. That's not good. That's funny. So, anyways, talking about there was one thing I had written down right here, was the axle heights for the two-wheel drive. This might be the biggest finding running the two-wheel drive this year, is the axle heights. For those that are driving for Proline or J Concepts, the S3 compound and the silver compound are extremely different. And I wanted to really touch base with everyone out there that is driving their car with either J Concepts tires versus Proline tires. We learned a ton that at Sdrc that you cannot copy someone's setup if you're on J Concepts tires and you're trying to copy someone that's on Proline tires, because the car steers, it drives so much differently on and off power with the grip levels. So in my opinion, if you are running for Proline or run Proline tires and you're trying to copy setup related things such as axle heights, diff heights, springs, and stuff like that, it's going to be very difficult to have a good driving balance. Kurt actually ran one of Dustin Evans' practice cars basically how he races it with his Proline tires and wing and body. And he was shocked on how much different it was. So for those who are on J Concepts tires, in my opinion, this is something that you're going to definitely want to be testing out. I've been running my axle height in the rear at +1. It's crazy because in years past, I've always ran +2 everywhere and just called it a day. But for whatever reason, things have been changing with the tires, the traction level. +1 rear axle height is the new standard. The front has a much larger window with the J Concepts tires, which means I've been normally running +1 axle heights front and rear, and then +2 diff. I ended up with +1 rear axle height and +2 axle height in the front at Top Gun. But afterwards, I did some testing and did +2.5, which the black inserts in the front, and really preferred that. So I ended up thinking to myself, well, if I did +2.5 in the front, I'm going to go to +2 in the rear and just raise them both up the same. When I raised the axle height to +2, that made it so difficult to drive. I was not a fan of how it felt. The +1 rear axle height was so much more preferred. The forgiveness that it gives you when you're cornering around the corner. That was kind of I didn't say that right, but when you're cornering, the +1 axle height allows the rear end to actually get on the rear and load the tires. Well, the +2 actually makes your car slide. There's just not enough. The tire can't handle how much more rigid. When you raise the axle, it typically makes it stiffer, more rigid to drive. So if there's enough traction, sure, you can do whatever you want. But until you get onto the carpet grip, I don't see us running anything but +1 rear axle height for the J Concepts guys. For the Proline guys, it seems that the J Concepts guys are running their axle heights higher in the front than in the rear. And it's almost like for the Proline guys, they can almost potentially do the opposite or always be lower in the front and like at the same to the rear. So for instance, I believe Dustin always runs +2, but in the recommendation that Kurt kind of found, it seemed that you can run like maybe +1 in the front and +2 in the rear. So this is traditionally we're talking about roll centers here. And I know a lot of people message me online, asking setup questions, and it's been really difficult to explain to them the difference. And I'm hopefully those people who are watching this video, or if you guys can share this video to people that you may have heard, or asking about questions like this, it only just helps the community out as a whole. But Proline tires, they skid a lot more in the front, and there's not much steering feel, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that the tires aren't good. It's just they drive so much differently. I think that they can get the job done just like the JC tires. Now, with that being said, I think the JC tires are tremendously easier to get traction and are more forgiveness when the car's set up right. I think the setup window is a little bit wider. And just the natural kind of initial grip feeling is a little bit higher. But with that said, 1 axle height in the rear, 2 in the front. Depending on the traction level, I think if you're club racing, I think you can run 1 axle height in the front and 1 rear. Basically what we did throughout the event is I showed up, I ran +1 axle height front and rear, ran through all practice. My stuff was absolutely dialed, and then started to get the end of the practice or the beginning of the first qualifier. Ended up noticing that the front was like getting way too edgy. So I raised the front axle height. That like completely reinvented like how I was able to drive. Like it just made it so much easier to drive. And then to add to that, the grip got even higher. And I noticed that the rear wasn't really rolling that much, which you definitely, when it's not really rolling that much, it's not cornering like fluidly, You don't want to raise the rear axle height. If anything, you want to lower it. But we kept the axle height at +1 the whole time. But we changed the gray V2 gray rear spring and took off the V1 whites. It seems for sure that the V2 springs are a little bit softer, a little bit more forgiveness. It changes the frequency a little bit more nerding out than I would like. But that carried the corner speed so fast and so nicely that my stuff was like absolutely cheating and on rails to drive. So, for instance, that's there for an example. For those who are driving the Proline tires, you probably have to use a lot of steering wheel. And with us, we're like more like off center. There's a ton of steering feel. You kind of have direction of where it's going to go. It's a fine balance because when you start putting a lot of wheel input into cars and you're starting to actually when you're turning a wheel too much, there's a lot of more Ackerman, that stuff that's involved. It scrubs differently. Two-wheel drives are super finicky with all that stuff. So I like to have a great steering feel off center to kind of understand where the car is going to go, the oversteer and understeer kind of feeling. There's definitely a fine balance. But that does it for the two-wheel drive talk. I'm pretty stoked on how the testing went. Sdrc was able to grab the win there. Ended up coming up a little bit short in four-wheel drive. It seems that the last year Top Gun I was able to win the two-wheel drive, and Mayfield was able to win the four-wheel drive stuff. So we got the same results this year. Hopefully, not hopefully. I definitely want to have another repeat for 2022 there. But Kevin King, running both, the PL tires are more numb, so you need to put more steering in them. The JC tires, this is Kevin King. The JC tires have more grip overall, so you need to set up to allow the tires to do the thing. Do I think more tracks should have a 21.5 buggy class given how fast 17.5 is? Yes, I definitely think 21.5, that should be the beginning class for everyone that comes in. I think that should be the class. I think, yeah, it's difficult to say. I mean, like I said, the mod motors have so much power, and not everyone has fun running mod. It's for the elite drivers that are crazy enough to put more power in it and just race it out as fast as we possibly can. The 17.5 classes, I think, is honestly kind of perfect speed. And that's probably the class that we probably should be racing, because I think the racing would be probably a lot closer, and I think it would be cooler for people to watch. With that said, 21.5, I definitely think should be the ultimate standard. Jeff Brown, yep. Jeff, I'm gonna need some. I'm gonna have to get a hold of you about getting some more of that sauce. Got your sauce has been working pretty good. I've been loving it. I ran it at Trackside Hobbies and at Masters of Dirt, and I know for Sdrc, it's the most popular sauce. So I'm gonna have to get a hold of you soon. Yeah, we'll catch up after this this video. Charlie, I have not tested the dual AC units on the trailer yet. Unfortunately, I don't have a big enough generator to run those things, so I'm gonna have to purchase the Honda 7000, which is basically half. That's basically half my trailer. Like that was the Honda generator is like $5,000 or $6,000. So yeah, if I'm gonna have to, I could do the dual generator thing. You can lock them in place, but that would be overkill. I think I'm just gonna end up getting the Mac Daddy generator and calling it a day. So this is a good question. So, uh, really good question. The biggest thing when traveling to a new track or going to the same track but in a different time of the year or the following year, the best thing to do is, well, one, as far as figuring out what tires everyone runs, what's the local tire, what's the local hot sauce. That's rule one for me. The second thing is to go up on the driver's stand, see how the layout looks, walk the track potentially. I don't know if you're talking about 10 scale or 8 scale, but check out what that's like. Um, and traditionally for like 10 scale tracks, given that I know how much different the track is from starting practice on Thursday or Friday to some compared to the end of the weekend by a lot. So I like to run my four-wheel drive first because four-wheel drive has more traction than two-wheel drive, just to kind of learn the lines. It's easier to get around, makes it seem like you're going fast, but you're really not. Um, and traditionally allow the track to come in after a couple of hours. Um, and then I like to throw out my two-wheel drive. And then with the tires that you want to practice with, I traditionally have like a practice set. If there's practice all day Thursday and all day Friday, I have a practice set for all day Thursday, and then Friday is when I start like my actual like race prep. And with race prep, depending on where you're running for 10 scale, with our new Smoothie 2s, I've only really needed one or two sets. So um, practicing on Friday, I would traditionally like uh, switch back and forth, run set one, run set two, run set one, run one set two. So that gets an even run on the tires and not kind of blow out the tires all at once. Um, but if it's a lot shorter of a weekend of racing, then that's when I'll go and just run one set and just call it a day. But that's kind of like my go-to. I always run my car. As far as setup changes go, I mean, unless something's really changing, um, you know, for instance, I've been kind of playing the short game a little bit with the car setup. I kind of show with my car a little bit more aggressive with the axle heights, like at +1 in the rear, +1 in the front. The +1 on the one in the rear is standard now for me, but when I show up the +2 front axle height, it doesn't steer as much. So the lap times are kind of slow. It's not doesn't feel quite right. So I just do +1 and call it a day at the beginning. And then I change the car setup to make it go faster because the track is having more traction. So um, you can play the long-term game and start with a little more forgiving car and just let the track come to the car. But for us, I kind of know when and where to change it, so it doesn't bother me to do that extra, to have the more speed at the beginning, and then kick it to the next gear when the track's getting to that window. But I know for sure you don't want to be changing your car a ton because if you're used to driving one, definitely don't stop. You don't want to keep on changing your car throughout the weekend. I've definitely been down that path way too many times. Um, I always end up back to where I started. It's important to take notes. Yeah, every time I do a race weekend, afterwards I write some notes of what I changed, why I changed them, and do my personal setup sheets, and go from there. James, who makes a slipper delete for this 74.1? I have no idea. I don't even know if that's even a thing. I know if you lock the nut all the way down, it won't slip. So that's kind of like the same thing. I don't even know if why you would really want one. How often and why, when do you adjust your ball diff? Or do you just set it the way you like it after a break-in and leave it the same until you next rebuild? Yeah, so Greg, this is a good question. Um, I don't do I don't really exactly change the tension at an event. I set it to where I like it when I'm home, when I'm doing the break-in process. Um, I then do like the final running at, when I get to the track, and then run it a couple times, make sure it doesn't change, if it doesn't get too loose, and then maybe have to readjust it back to where I thought it should be, and then it's done. You shouldn't have to ever really touch it. Recently, I've been doing more than one event on a ball diff, which I know for you guys maybe sound kind of bad, but I've always done new ball diffs for every event that I travel to. But it seems that they're lasting longer um, than I thought they would, and it's not really affecting the performance of the vehicle. So, I mean, we get a ton of running through practice. I know for the guys that club race only, depending on how much you club race, if you're club racing every weekend and you're practicing, 3 or 4 times a week, or excuse me, 3 or 4 times um, a month, that's over probably 50 battery packs or more. Um, I would probably say that you probably should do a new ball diff once a month or once a quarter, depending on how much you run. I mean, and also too, depending on the traction level, the more traction, the more they wear out. So um, that's definitely something that I would keep in mind. Well, when I've been lasting longer, I'm talking about the outdrive and bones specifically. If you build it right, the rings and balls will last quite a while, but also depends um, on the traction level. I've been running the thrust cage balls from ProTech, and then I run the standard diff rings that Associate offers. I've been running the shell diff balls, not the carbide ones. I don't believe they are. But they're just like the standard, like a higher quality diff ball, the bigger of the diff, and it seems to be helping a lot with how smooth they've been feeling. Um, so yeah, Jeff, how often do you replace your Shackle rings? Now this, I can say I replace the shock O-rings every event for sure. The shock O-rings don't last that long. Just kind of the way it is with the dust and dirt that kicks up to them. Um, for 10 scale, for 8 scale, we don't change them hardly ever. So I've been running the thick pistons. This is standard pistons. Depending on the on the track you're running on, as far as like dirt or carpet. I believe on carpet we've kind of been bouncing back and forth between like the mediums and the thicks, but I've just been running 2-hole 1.7s in the rear with 30 weight. But we got some good questions rolling in. So, Patrick, what's going on, man? It's nice seeing you in the video here. Yeah, this is a tough question, because just as of recently, I've really liked emulsion. I've always ran bladder, and it's been pretty awesome. But I also think, depending on the track condition, it also can vary a ton. I think on smooth, high-speed tracks, I think the hard bladder is probably more preferred. And then on the slightly more character tracks that change, the emulsion has more forgiveness. That's kind of my findings recently. We've ran emulsion in the past and had great success. We've switched over to bladder because we've had good success. It's also personal preference. I know sometimes you pick up a car and it's just like, oh my gosh, this car's so plush, and you ask him what shocks you're running, and he's like, I'm running emulsion. I'm like, what, really? I'm like, I thought my bladder was better. So yeah, it's crazy. The RC stuff, there's no right and wrong, that's for sure. What's we got here? Any response to some comments on social media about drivers leaving AE? Is that a sign of anything for the future of AE's race program, or is it a part of, I'm going to go on and say that I've never seen a race program from the other side of the perspective. Everyone thinks that the grass is greener on the other side. I've have nothing but love and respect for everyone that's been a part of Team Associated. I've always felt like family to them. I can't be any more happier where I'm at currently, and the people that have helped me there at Associated. It's a tough business. I know a lot of people want something better or feel that they can do better on something else, and I respect them for seeing their dream. For instance, the people that have left, one of my best friends left Associated with Jackson, and I couldn't have been more happier for him, in the same way that I was sad. But at the same time, the race program from Associated, I don't think can't be any stronger than it ever has been. And I only see it from my perspective getting stronger. We have a great group of guys. I love my teammates. I think that we're going to be all pushing each other to the limit. I also think that racing in 2022 and 2023 is only going to be better, because I know a lot of race events that are coming up that we're going to be racing. I think that from the guys behind the scene that I know we have are always working on something new. I also know that the passion and the heart that the guys bring to the table, that maybe you guys probably don't see, or how much time they're putting in. And I know that other teams don't even come close to that. and I couldn't be more proud to be with Associated. So, and I know a lot of pro drivers that I probably can't. I know I can't say their names. Top elite drivers that wishes they would be running for Team Associated, and I'm very fortunate and honored to be with them. So hopefully that covers that. Would I ever run Dirt Oval? Yeah, I probably would. If someone handed me a remote and it's all set up, I'd probably would be all in. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Well, anyways, guys, I am gonna ask you guys, what are you guys' plans for 2022? Any events that you guys are looking to travel to? I can maybe give some insight on potentially if that's a good event or not, or if I'm going to be traveling there. Um, that's kind of the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is just getting out there for 2022, seeing all the new faces, seeing all my old friends. Looking forward to doing some social media this year of having some fun. Hunter, SIC, what tires? You're going to start off on green reflexes, and then you're going to probably switch over to blue reflexes. I know it's crazy. It's not almost like we've never done that. Patrick. Yeah, it is unfortunate. I get a ton of emails of asking how they can get sponsored on the team. And I think it's great because I know when I was younger, well, not that I'm not younger or old, but when I see this, I feel that when people ask for sponsors, I feel that, why do you deserve a sponsorship versus someone else? And, I personally had to race my way into a sponsorship. I had to win several huge stock events before I even was like a 50 off sponsor. And I had to win the worlds before I was able to be a professional racer and stuff like that. Like now there's so many kids and drivers that are getting paid for not backing anything up, and having a social media presence together. Um, yeah, it's definitely crazy. I know. I'm a big fan of Ford trucks, and I bought a Ford truck, but for some reason they won't give me 100% sponsorship on a new Raptor. So that's kind of this an example. I love Chick-fil-A, but I go there once or twice a week, but they won't sponsor me. So that's the same response that I tell everyone about sponsorships. So you have to earn your way in and take advantage of opportunities that you can when you're traveling to these races. And yeah. So, but anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap things up. I'm so grateful that been able to do these videos with you guys. I've met a lot of people that have commented on my race videos at the track. It's always a pleasure hearing that you guys appreciate the videos that I do. And of course, without any of the sponsors that I have today, I wouldn't be able to do what I love to do. So thanks again. Happy New Year's. Hopefully you guys stay safe and enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you soon. So my first event is Sdrc. If you're going, don't be a stranger. Peace out, guys.